Welcome back. The year is 2000, and 7-year-old me excitedly unwraps a suspiciously large box from underneath the Christmas tree. Inside the box is none other than the just released jungle green Nintendo 64 with a matching green controller and a copy of Donkey Kong 64. I'm of course referring to this green N64 and this green controller, both of which work, by the way. And this is the game I'm referring to, Donkey Kong 64. Rated E for everyone, but it wasn't for everyone, was it? It was for me. They made that game for me. Anyway, I opened this up as a little kid, and this is the day that I became a gamer. The gamer that you now know me as, you know. Your favorite gaming channel. Sure, I only post a gaming video once or twice a year, but that's all that you really want. You prefer it that way, actually. You like it that way even better. I know it's hard to imagine a time before I was a gamer, but there was a time. And the reason why I wasn't a gamer yet is because there was no games. Okay, there were games, but there weren't that many of them. And the ones I spent my time playing were like pseudo-educational, like point-and-click adventure games like Putt-Putt, freaking Pajama Sam, Zoombinis, all of which kind of slapped, to be honest. I loved those games. I still talk about those games with my siblings about how great those games were. Zoombinis is on Steam. Actually, all those games are on Steam, and I own them on Steam.
Thank you, thank you.
Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. We also had a Sega Genesis up to this point, but I was like a little kid. I was like 5 when we got the Sega Genesis, and then I turned 6, and it's not like my brain developed that much in that time. We didn't have very many games because they were so expensive, and we didn't know anything about which ones were good. The only game that we had that I would actually play was Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and that game was, let me tell you, way too hard for the little nose-picking child I was at the time. So I didn't really play that very much. I stuck to Putt-Putt and Pajama Sam. You see, the N64 was special. And what made it special wasn't the fact that the controllers were seemingly made for 3-armed aliens, it was the fact that it could do 4-player split screen. Now, the N64 wasn't the first time there was 4 players playing simultaneously on one screen before. There were games like Gauntlet, released back in 1985, that had 4 players on one screen, and then there was Street Racer, which came out in like 94 for the Sega Saturn and the Super Nintendo, and on Sega Saturn it had 4-player split screen, and it was pretty much Mario Kart. Notable difference though is that Street Racer, being one of the earliest split screen games, the screens were split up vertically, and then Mario Kart came out and was like, let's do it like every screen in a corner, you know, like so the screens are all like the same shape, you know, as like a regular screen. And they were like, why did we think of that? I know this is a lot of information you don't really need, and you're probably asking yourself, why the history lesson, Greg? Especially considering I was a little bath-hating child at this point in time, so this isn't my own personal experience thus far anyway. To which I say, it's important to set the scene. And also, that's really sweet of you to want to hear more about my personal experiences. That's nice of you. And I won't disappoint you. Donkey Kong 64 blew my mind. It was and still is an amazing game. I played that game so much as a kid that I used to have dreams about golden bananas, and to this day I still can't see a banana without hearing the audio from the game go, "Oh, banana." However, the biggest thing this game introduced into my life wasn't fruit related, it was 4-player split screen action, baby. That's what it's all about. My journey of becoming a sweaty, try-hard gamer was about to begin. I was already craving Totino's pizza rolls and any flavor of Mountain Dew I could get my grimy little hands on. The multiplayer in Donkey Kong 64 featured a variety of game modes and maps to play on, but the only one that mattered to me was Deathmatch. Now, I don't think they actually called it Deathmatch, considering it was like a cute kids game with like fruit and bananas and, you know, all this stuff. It probably wasn't called Deathmatch, but that's what we know that mode as. You know, you'll kill as many players as you can for points, or on this game you're not killing them, you're just kind of like bonking them on the head enough times to where they fall down and go, ooh, you know what I'm talking about. But the levels were filled with ammo and, you know, grenades, which were oranges, and health packs, which were watermelons. Like I said, a lot of fruit involved, and you would just run around the map and try to blow each other up and shoot each other and knock everyone out until you were the last man standing, and then you won. Congrats. It was a huge step up from Pajama Sam and Zoombinis, which again, were both fantastic games, don't get me wrong on that. I played the multiplayer against my siblings, I played it against my friends, I played it against my neighbors, I played it against myself. Like, actually, I would plug in 4 controllers and kind of alternate between them, simulating what would happen if there were 4 people playing. I wasn't a lonely kid, I was just a weirdo, okay? Don't feel bad for me, I was just a weird kid. I did it to myself. But it was amazing to me, being able to have 4 people huddle in front of a screen and battle each other in a video game until one of you emerges the winner, and you can play that over and over again. You don't gotta insert quarters or anything. It's just right there in the living room. Bro, this was it. This was the thing. Now, I'm not here to just talk about Donkey Kong 64, although I probably could make a whole video about Donkey Kong 64, but I won't. Another game had launched for N64 a couple years prior. I didn't have it, nor was I allowed to play it due to its violent nature. Spoilers though, I did play it. Sorry, Mom. My friends had it. This game was the infamous GoldenEye 64, and unlike Donkey Kong, it featured actual guns, first-person action, where you held the gun or you were the gun, and when you died, blood would drip down your screen and it would go, which was a huge step up from Donkey Kong, which would just go. Fellas, this game broke my brain. From this point forward, the future I had of being a normal person who goes to school, gets a degree, gets a nice prestigious job, that got crumpled up, thrown into a trash compactor, set to maximum trash compacting mode, got crunched down to a cube this big, and then thrown into a comically large incinerator to be scorched into ashes and never seen again. You get the idea, okay? I was no longer the same. I was a new and improved and much less fun to be around version of myself. I was Gamer Greg now. And I wanted to be the best at not just GoldenEye and not just Donkey Kong, but every game I could get my hands on. In 2001, a new game released for an entirely new console called Halo Combat Evolved for the original Xbox. You might have heard of it. Similar to GoldenEye, I wouldn't actually learn of this game or get a chance to play it until years later. But when I finally got my chance, bro, you already know. I liked it. Halo 1 improved upon the 4-player simultaneous competitive split screen thing that existed up to that point in a lot of ways. It had an array of really unique weapons, game modes, vehicles, some of which you could have multiple people in, some of which had their own weapons on them. There were maps ranging from small, cramped ones to really big team battle ones. The sound design was great. The music is timelessly incredible. It was the first of its kind. Like, it was kind of groundbreaking at the time. By this point, it's 2003. I'm about 10 years old. My parents were strictly anti-video game, more particularly anti-violent video game, so how was I ever gonna rot my brain on the new Halo game if I wasn't allowed to play it? I tell you what, fate hooked me up a good one, because there was this one weird kid who would just randomly come into the same area where I lived on his little electric scooter, and I was always like, what's up with this kid? And one day I talked to him, and then we became friends. Turns out he lives a couple blocks up and has, you guessed it, a giant TV, an original Xbox, and a copy of Halo 1. So I would get to go over to his house and play the game with him. Now, he obviously had the game already. He'd had it for a couple years, and so he was already a little experienced. Like, he knew the maps, he knew like the guns, he knew where they'd spawn. Like, he had a lot of advantages on me being like blindly coming into this game, making him the perfect match for toxically competitive GregBroDude kid. We would play for hours upon hours, and he would beat me so bad every time we played. He would snipe me from across the map, killing me instantly. He'd blow me up with a rocket launcher, killing me instantly. He would hide in a corner and shotgun me as I walked by, killing me instantly. It was frustrating, but I loved every second of it. Now, you probably can see where the story is headed. My eyes started to drift from my half of the screen to my friend's half of the screen, because they're both on the same TV, remember? As I got to know the maps better, I was getting better and better at identifying where he was by just peeking at his screen and seeing his surroundings. I could also see what weapons he had, and whether or not he was about to obliterate me. This was, and is, negatively referred to as screen peeking or screen cheating. Peeking at your opponent's screen and using this gained knowledge to your advantage is heavily frowned upon in the gaming community, especially in these days when there was only split screen multiplayer and online wasn't really a thing yet. Now, even though I hadn't heard the term screen cheating yet myself, I pretty quickly concluded on my own that it was definitely a sort of scummy thing to do, gaining an advantage like that outside the rules of the game. So what did I do? Did I stop screen peeking? Hell no, dude.
Betrayal.
I screen peeked harder. If you're gonna cheat on a test, what do? Do you get every answer right? No, that's kind of suspicious. You gotta get 1 or 2 wrong on purpose to avoid the suspicion that maybe you cheated on the test. Don't look at me like you've never cheated on a test. I applied the same strategy to screen cheating. I used this newfound power sparingly, only peeking every now and then to gain a little bonus knowledge without making it too obvious to my friend that I had clairvoyant knowledge of him at all times. This is when I started to close the gap on him. Instead of winning by 10 kills, he would just beat me by 5 kills, and then he'd beat me by 3 kills, and then he was beating me by like 1 kill. It was getting really close. I was closing in on the victory that I had cheated so hard to get. It was time. We played a match that was almost perfectly tied the whole time. I'd kill him, he'd kill me, I'd kill him, and so on. We were just neck and neck the whole time. I had to crank up my screen cheating a little bit to compensate. I wanted to win so bad. It was at this point that I noticed something rather curious. I was hiding around a corner with a shotgun, as you do, and as my friend had done to me so many times in the past, and when he finally approached me, and I was ready to just jump out and blow him to smithereens, he stopped, backed up, and went the other way, as if he knew I was there waiting for him. For example, that was the moment that I had the, now obvious in hindsight, epiphany that this kid was screen cheating on me this whole time. He always knew where I was, and now I knew how. Like I said earlier, I was toxically competitive. So this next part should not surprise you at all, okay? I called him out for screen peeking. And then he called me out for screen peeking, and then screen peeking just became a part of our game. We were both screen peekers and we both knew it. Once you realize how helpful it is just to take a little peek at your opponent's screen and gain a huge advantage, it's really hard not to look. I mean, most of these games, Halo being one of them, it was essentially just a big game of hide and seek, especially when you were only playing with one other person. You're telling me you're not gonna peek at your opponent's screen in what's essentially just a giant game of hide and seek? Get out of here with that nonsense. Fast forward a bit more now. Let's do a big time jump. It's now 2008. I'm now 15 years old. I own my own Xbox 360, and all of my friends are big into Halo 3. We would regularly have LAN parties where we'd connect multiple Xboxes together and then play with sometimes 10 or more people all in the same room.
That smell is the smell of death.
My ability to screen peek had become an art form at this point. My eyes would no longer just be shifting from my bottom half of the screen to my other opponent's top half of their screen. It was now 4 screens on one television, and then multiple televisions with more screens on them for me to look at. I was like the guy from The Matrix, or the monkey from Toy Story 3. I saw everything. And it wasn't just screen peeking. Like, my aim was good, I knew all the maps really well, I knew all the weapons very well. I could throw a grenade with the accuracy of an Olympic athlete. Couple that with my Jimmy Neutron brain blast ability to look at 10 screens at once, and you've got the recipe for someone who's not very fun to play Halo with.
I am sweaty.
It's a bit cringe looking back, but occasionally someone would accuse me of screen cheating because I would just always win, and you know, I'd deny it or whatever, and then they seem like kind of a sore loser for accusing me of cheating, you know, instead of just being better at the game than them, which I probably also was, but not by as much if I wasn't peeking at their screens, you know. But in reality, I was the loser for trying so hard in a group of people that were mostly just hanging out and having fun. Some people were just along for the ride, and I was there to win. So yeah, I was there to win. Adult me will fully admit that screen peeking is a, like, kind of slimy and pretty cheap thing to be doing. It's like stealing money from the bank in Monopoly when no one's looking, or telling the waiter at Chili's that it's your birthday when it's really not your birthday, so they gather around you and sing to you and make you feel all special during a time of your life when you don't have that much else to be happy about. Like, it works, but you didn't really earn it. Does that make sense? Time jump again. By this time, I'm like in my early 20s, and multiplayer games have largely become online only. There's not a lot of local split screen anymore as far as competitive games go. Halo 5 launched without any split screen for any modes, and of course, a lot of fans hated that, myself included, and it was the main reason why I got a PS4 that generation instead of an Xbox One, despite being a big Xbox guy up until that point. So they messed up bad on that one, but it was also just a sign of the times. Local split screen screen was kind of going away and that online was becoming so popular. So not every game was going to do all this work to build it into their games because they were just like, everyone has a console now. Halo split screen became a thing of the past, and I went from playing it almost every day to now just every couple of weeks when I got that itch, you know, and I wanted to plug in my Xbox 360 to go a couple rounds. Yeah, you know, like an addict. Now fast forward one last time, it's now 2020, 3 years ago when I built my gaming PC that sits in front of me now. The modern gaming community, especially on PC, is very competitive heavy. The gaming community now is very sweaty, it's very esportsy. Everyone wants to be the next big pro gamer because it's actually a thing now. There are pro gamers and that's what they do for their job, is that they're just good at games. Naturally, I fit right in. I still wanted to be the best, even at this point in time. And even though I'd spent all this time gaming on a controller, I was trying to make the switch over to mouse and keyboard so I could be even more competitive, and it took me a little while, but eventually I did. Now I feel much better on mouse and keyboard, and I'm not half as comfortable on controller as I used to be, which is a little bit sad because I spent so much time getting good at that, and then now it feels like a foreign object in my hands, or, you know, not that bad, but I'm just not as smooth with it anymore. Side note, if you're on console and you want to get a PC, don't. What they don't tell you is that you're going to spend a bunch of money buying games on sale that you're never going to play, ever. They're going to sit there. You're going to have an ever-growing Steam library, and you're only going to play like the same 2 games. Now you're gaming at a desk, which feels really weird. You got to have like good posture or you look like a shrimp. Like, I miss just getting comfortable and gaming on the couch, you know? But I can't really go back to it in the same way. It feels weird now. It makes me kind of sad. Now fast forward till now. The Halo LAN parties have continued as like a once-a-year tradition. Every December we get as many people as we can together that are still around, or anyone else that's interested, and we put them all in a room and we play Halo. If we're lucky, we get 8 people, so we can do 2 TVs of 4, and we can do 4v4, and it's wonderful. It's a great nostalgic thing for me. It's like riding a bike, if you only got the bike once a year, or something. The most recent Halo night we had was just 2 months ago. It was just this December, we just did it. And this is after having missed the last 2 years, so it felt good to be back. But something happened this time that really surprised me. I lost a few matches, like fair and square. Like I was getting just straight up outplayed. I still did well, but I lost some matches without like any obvious mistakes, other than just getting beaten. At first I like couldn't believe it. I was kind of like, I don't know, wasn't paying attention, I guess. But after it happened a couple times, I realized I'm not really the sweaty gamer that I used to be. And with the reputation of being the just sweaty Halo guy of the friend group, people outscoring me was kind of a big deal. And so naturally, you know, they had to rub it in my face, but hell, I can't say they didn't earn it. It felt bad at first, but then it was kind of like, this is crazy. Something else happened that I didn't expect, and that is that I feel like I had more fun. It was just like, it was a chill experience. I was there just to hang out. I wasn't there to sweat out in Halo, and maybe that's just part of growing up and getting older or something. It was more like hanging out and playing Halo than just trying to sweat out in this game. It's like bowling. I don't know if you guys ever go bowling, but it's really mostly fun if no one in your group is that good at it. Like, as long as you're all like kind of bad, or like you're all average, it's fun. As soon as someone comes along and like doubles your score, it stops being as fun because now there's this pressure to like try harder instead of just relaxing and rolling the ball every now and then. At least for me. I mean, at this point, I feel like we've established that I have some sort of problem, or at least used to have a problem. So I am by no means the standard for what a normal person should do in any sort of competitive setting. So I digress. In the era of competitive split-screen multiplayer shooter games, the temptation to screen peek was just too much for me to resist. And now that it's kind of gone and I don't play in that setting anymore, I don't really miss it. I do wish there were more split screen games in general these days, like co-op ones. I'm not saying I don't miss split screen, I love split screen, but I feel like it works so much better for cooperative play, like couch co-op. And there just isn't that much of it, so that makes me kind of sad too. Playing video games all together in the same room is like, it feels like that's what it was all about in the beginning, and now it's this online only thing. I know I sound like an old guy here, that's not the point of this video. Playing games all together in the same room, that was fun. I enjoyed that. Unfortunately, I spent most of that time destroying my friends instead of just playing and having fun. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I don't really have a desire to like sweat out in games anymore and just try super hard. It's an era that I look back on somewhat fondly. It's just not me anymore, and I think I'm happy about that. It's nice to feel like I've moved on to better things, like board games. Now I'm a sweaty board gamer. 1v1 me in Dice Forge or Cosmic Frog, and I will make you wish you'd never been born, kid. I'll be peeking over the table to see your next move the whole game, dude. You literally literally can't beat me. 1v1 me, Settlers of Catan. You literally can't win. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this video. I wanted to try a new style. I actually wrote down notes for this video instead of just going off the cuff, so hopefully it felt a little more organized. If it didn't, then I'm a bad writer and I just wasted like 4 hours writing this down. So let me know if you liked it, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye! You're trash at games. I'm the best. Also, look at my new room. Yay, it's not done yet, but it's on the way. Let's go.